I think we're on the cusp of a new revolution of entrepreneurship. But what has to happen on the education side, and I actually recently had this conversation with, where I'm in Russell's Atlas group and talking to them about it, I actually polled the room and said, how many of you are entrepreneurs by choice? Meaning like, that's what you set out to do. And it was a surprisingly small number because most of us are entrepreneurs by default because we weren't smart enough to be anything else. Because in school, at some point we were either, in third grade, the kid in the back of the room, eating a crayon, or in high school, we were the ones like wouldn't follow any rules, right? Or in college, we're the ones being like, well, if you're so smart, why don't you go make money? I can make more money than you, right? Or, we're in a job and realizing like there's a dead end to this ladder's leaning against the wrong building. I don't want to climb it. At whatever point we realized we just didn't fit in this box. But like we all have, and I'll just stereotype this, but we all have that mentality of like, no one's mother-in-law is super proud of their daughter bringing home a business owner. She wants to see a doctor or a lawyer or an accountant or someone that is successful because they were highly educated and have a good job and have a good career. Entrepreneurship is frowned upon. It's what the dumb kids do who can't do anything else. And I think that approach and view of entrepreneurship is what we have to work on changing. We have to, now again, I'll ruffle some feathers, but it's good timing and it's great language. We've got to make entrepreneurship great again. Like we genuinely have to raise the value of what it is we do and not look at it. Another crazy stat or another crazy thing that has been observed, like the vast majority of murders in movies are actually done by business owners and wealthy entrepreneurs. Like we have been cast as not only are we the dumb kid eating crayons in the back of the room, we're also the villain. Because if we're successful, right, we're evil. We're the bad guy, right? And one level further, like when I started to think about all this, I'd made this transition into chief wealth officer. I'd shut down other companies. I went about a year in the wilderness figuring all this out. And then like once things were coming back up, actually, name of the podcast, 2 Comma Club, earned a 2 Comma Club for this business. And I was so proud of that. Like this was no business partners. It was me this time. Like I built this and had come out and had something I was super proud of. It started to take off. I'd finally put a team together. Like I'd rebuilt everything that I had before. And I was so proud of it. And we got together at Thanksgiving with all my family. And everyone else could talk about like the marathons they were training for or what their kids were doing in school or what job promotions they got. But I sat there like silent and I didn't have words or the ability to share with them what I had accomplished and what I was thankful for over the year because I was worried they would just look at it and be like, I made $1 million in my company. They're like, brag. Like that's not, and there was no receptacle for that conversation. I was like, man, that's got to change. Especially this pendulum is changing one way or another. And if we don't get on board that path of, highly educated, good, like that's all going away. But like I said, what needs to change is we need to make entrepreneurship great again. We need to get to where people are proud to run businesses. We hold them up as something desirable that you would go into business for yourself. That you would do that intentionally and not as a default.
Yeah, I think it's really fascinating that the first thing you want to change in the education space is the identity piece of things. Because I know that, firsthand for me, when it came to becoming an entrepreneur, like that's the very first part. You have to become it. You have to mentally accept that identity. So I'm curious to know, like, what are some of the steps you think we could do to help kind of make people enjoy that identity again, if you will?
Oh. So good. I don't know yet. That's what I'm like, but you're right. Like I thought about it long enough. I was like, no, it has to start with identity. Right. And like I grew up on a family farm. My dad's 3rd generation, my brother's 4th generation family farm. Right. So like that's in our DNA. And I grew up in a world where like the identity was like, my dad never said what his job was. He just said, I am a farmer. Like it was his identity. Right. And so I grew up with that of like looking for what am I going to become, right? And I tried on accountant for a little while and I tried on investment, I tried on insurance, But it wasn't until I let myself accept that identity of being an entrepreneur that I was like, that's it. Like, I like to build businesses. I like to solve these problems. And but it was hard to let go of like, oh, I'm supposed to tell people what my job is. What am I even supposed to say? So I think infusing what I would do is pull in and again, begin changing that perception of that entrepreneurship isn't about making money. It's not about power and control. It's not about firing your boss and having your own, because we know that doesn't actually end up being the case. Like, there are a lot of days where I come in, I'm like, man, I wish I had a boss. Like, I wish I had a boss who would just tell me what to do. Like, that'd be a relief some of the times, right? But if we could really frame it as helping people find what their unique abilities really are and how they can use those to solve genuine problems, now we're getting to an identity piece that we can then build a skill set upon and say, okay, in order to use your unique ability and solve that problem, sure, you might need math, but let's not call you a mathematician. Let's not study math for the sake of math, because that doesn't solve problems. Let's learn the type of math that's needed to be an engineer and build a bridge, because that fits your unique ability and the problem that you want to solve in the world. Like, let's tie it to our identity and make education the tool, not the end destination or the end outcome.
Yeah, definitely. I think one thing I'd add to that is, if we look at education as the tool, for example, it's like the point of it should be to, help people get the resources they need, be able to expand their skills and things of that nature. But more specifically, it should help them find, I can't recall if Russell shared this, the Ikigai concept of all the different 4 areas where you can get paid for doing something you enjoy, something you're passionate about, and something you're good at. And it's like, if you can find that point, if that's what school is all about, and then help you shift that identity, I think that could be pretty profound.
Yeah, that, like, again, instead of saying, if you want to be an accountant, do this. If you want to be an attorney, do this. It would be let's figure out who you are. Let's line up as many of those. And now let's create a curriculum or a trajectory that puts you on a path to solving what that is. But that's it. It's got to start with identity. It's got to start with more discovery, more free time, more thinking time.
If you're interested in learning more about the tidbits and advice that they have, then you should consider subscribing to the 2 Comma Club newsletter, where you'll get daily updates and advice on the podcast and the things that we are learning from the individuals who have made at least $1 million. Just go to 2ccnewsletter.com or click the link in the description down below and subscribe.